Hello everyone, it's Jennifer and thank you for joining me today. What I have here on my mat today is I have some of the beads and components from the Honolulu Blue. This is Color Classics Jesse James Beads bead strand. If you want to see this in its entirety, I will put a link to my unboxing for my Design Ambassador Pack. I will put that in the description below. I also have some sterling silver extreme flex, and this is beading wire from Soft Flex Company, as well as some of their 2x2 crimp tubes, which are also sterling silver. I have a couple of wire guardians from Beadalon. I also have, I love this little pack. This is wire and findings box in silver from Jesse James Beads. And I got this from Walmart, walmart.com. And you get a bunch of little goodies in this little box. And so you get some ear wires, you get some jump rings in a couple different sizes, some lobster clasps, head pin, some crimp tubes, some beading wire, elastic cording, and some 20 gauge wire as well. And just a really cool pack. And we're probably going to be using one of the lobster clasps from there, as well as some of these jump rings. And again, there's some crimp tubes in here as well. Let me see where they're at. Right there. There's some little crimp tubes. You probably can't see because of all the glare, but just a really, really cool little pack if you want to jump over to walmart.com and get that. We're also going to be using some B-Lon cord, and this is from Beadalon. And I'm not going to be using all of these beads. I wanted to have them and components. I wanted just to have them out so that you can see them before I start tearing everything apart. Well, I mean, I already tore it apart, but before I start putting these things together. So I'm from this bead strand, I'm pulling these gorgeous oval beads, just a beautiful kind of royal blue. I'm also going to be taking some of these little rondelles, super cute, some faceted rondelles. This one here is going to be used at the end for a dangle. And what I'm going to be pushing aside are going to be some of these gorgeous, huge spacers. And look at how large the holes are on those. These large hole beads, which I'm decided I'm going to start saving up all of my large hole beads like this. And I want to, I'm going to be putting them aside. I like to keep all of my beads from the strands or from the bead mixes all together so that I can identify them for you when I make videos. But for these large hole beads, I'm going to be pushing those over off to the side. Why am I going to be pushing those over to the side? If you look at the size of that hole, and keep in mind the size of keep in mind the size of capture chain, pearlescent chain, the pipe chain, also too, boy, you can probably get hollow mesh too. So I'm thinking of all of the silver silk chains. So that's what I'm doing. I want to put together some jewelry using these large hole beads. And who's going to be doing this with me? Little Miss Rain, my little granddaughter. She loves Nilay Patel. Also too, some little tiny spacers, some smaller crystal rondelle spacers, and some larger ones. Oh, did I just find the sixth? I think I just found the sixth little small bead, or spacer. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and push those off to the side. Let's go ahead and get those put together. And I know that it is my Honolulu Blue. Now, why do I keep this little spare kind of curled up piece that I ruined? Because sometimes when I am using just a couple of different strands, I like to add a third strand in there just because it has more to grab onto, those crimp tubes, because I am going to be using the Magical Crimper. The Magical Crimper is a one well crimping tool. And what it does is and it only works with 2x2 crimp tubes. And what it does is when you place that crimp tube in the center of that well and you squeeze down, it will pinch the four corners. Then when you turn it to its side, You give it a crimp while the crimp tube is still in the center. You give it another squeeze. Now you're taking those 4 corners and embedding them into the wire. And then you just kind of go around and you continue working around that crimp tube until you feel no tension. And then you have yourself a bead-like finish. And we are going to go over that twice. Then, so what I do is I like to keep my little spare pieces aside for doing that. And sometimes it just makes it easier for crimping down. All right, so what we're gonna do is we are going to string these on our beading wire. And I think what I'm gonna do is, I think I'm actually going to macrame around the beads when I get to them as well. I keep on saying as well. I'm sorry. I'll say two. And once I do that, and once that I have them all strung on to, and I'm working from the spool, and I will continue working from the spool, and I want to have about 5 3/4 inch of maybe 5.5 inches of bracelet. And so what I'm going to do is I am going to finish off this one side. And how we're going to do that, let's grab a couple of crimp tubes, and we're going to do macrame. And this type of bracelet has been done 100 times, but I just really love how it looks. And I wanted to bring in this gorgeous blue. And so I just thought it'd be really good to bring in some of this nice cream white B-Lon cord and with these beautiful beads and create a beautiful bracelet using those. So I have my 2x2 crimp tube, and then I strung on part of my wire guardian. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and bring that back through the other side. I love wire guardians. They protect your wire, and they protect your wire. And when you're going to have some metal components rubbing up against your wire, this is really good wire. This is 49 strand, but still I want to protect it as long as I can. And if this is a gift, or if you want to sell your bracelets, it's always a good idea to put on your wire guardian. You never know how they're going to wear the bracelet. So it's just always a good little rule to have. And I am not going to be crimping anything directly onto this side. The other side, I'm probably going to crimp on a 6mm closed jump ring, also from Beadalon. So now what I'm going to do is I passed that wire back through the crimp tube, and now I am placing this third piece here through the crimp tube. And I want to make sure that my wires are not all crossing around in there, and you do the best that you can to make sure it's not happening. You also want to make sure that your wire is down in that little, there's like a little groove or canal in the wire guardian. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my crimping tool, and I'm going to place this right in the middle of that well. Okay. Then I'm going to go ahead and give it the squeeze. And when I do that, I pinch down 4 corners. So I have my 4 corners all pinched in. You can see the little kind of the end there. Then I'm going to go ahead and come around, and I'm just going to turn it now sideways, and I'm going to give it a squeeze. Then I'm just going to keep it there and just kind of turn it around and around, and I can still feel the tension within that crimp tube. And I'm just going to continue turning until I feel no tension. And you can also kind of tell by how your wire guardian reacts. My wire guardian stopped spinning when I would crimp down. So now look, I have that beautiful bead-like finish, and it's very secure. Again, I find it a little easier to do this with that third strand. So if you're new to using that crimping tool, you might want to consider, if you can, if it makes it easier for you to grab in that third strand. So now I'm going to go ahead and take this one here and pull it as close as I can and trim, give that a trim. Then I'm going to go ahead and come in as close as I can to that bead. Well, it's the crimp tube. We'll call it the bead. It's now a bead. Then here we have our third and final one. Okay, and this one here is a good size too. Some people might toss that. I keep it because that is a very good size for passing through if you want to pass through another for a third pass for your crimp tube. This one here, that's almost about, I mean, I would probably keep that just because I have a tendency to keep a little bit more. All right, so now what I want to do is rather than keeping this on the spool, I know how long I need my bracelet to be. So I'm going to grab my fandy dandy little measuring tool, right? And so I'm going to go ahead and put that on here. And I am going to want to have about, now that I have this wire guardian on here, I'm probably going to go about 5 3/4. So I'm going to go about here, okay? But I need to be able to pass it back through. So I'm just going to give it a little bit more and give it a little bit of a trim. Okay, keeping this down right here, I'm going to go ahead and thread on my crimping, my 2x2 crimp tube. Go ahead and put on my wire guardian, and I guess, you know what, because I do not have my, let's keep that right there, I do not have my 6mm closed jump ring, so we're going to go ahead and just crimp. We will use an open jump ring for our closure. All right, so now that we still have that there, this is where I still want it, right here, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and pass that through and bring that down. All right, so I'm just going to give it another little test here just to see, and I want it to be probably about 5 3/4, only because now that I know that I have my wire guard on here, I know that I can get it a little bit closer to true size. Okay, so let's go ahead and go here and try and go a little bit. All right, I'm probably going to come down just a little bit more, just a little scooch more. There we go. All right. So this is probably, hopefully, about 5 3/4. Let's just try it again. I measure a ton of times and cut once. There we go. That is about it. And the reason why I'm going 5 3/4 is I want about 6 1/4, and then I'm going to add an extender. With the lobster clasp and then some extra jump rings, it'll take me to 6 1/4. It'll be another 1/2 inch or so. All right, so now, and I do want to bring these a little bit closer together. So I'm actually going to grab my standard crimping tool, and I want to bring them just a little bit closer together. And what I'm using is I'm using just the top well of the standard crimper, because then it's not going to change the shape of that wire guardian, because it's a little rounded on that top there. All right, so let's go ahead and do this. Let's go ahead and pass through a 3rd strand just so that I can show you again, and then how it makes it just a little bit easier. I'm gonna make sure that my wire is in that little well there, and it is, and I'm gonna go ahead and come in and get that about at the half, or in the middle, and give it a crimp. And there we go. We have our 4 corners pinched off. I want to get exactly in the middle again and want to be on its side and then I'm going to start going around and around. You can see that the wire guard is still kind of turning. There's still a little bit of tension when I squeeze. Now there's not. And there we have our little bead-like finish. Okay, so now let's go ahead and come in and give that a trim. Let's go ahead and come in and give that a trim. That's a good spare piece there. And let's go ahead and come in and give that one a trim. So now we have our size of our bracelet. Then what I want to do is I want to find the middle, and here's the middle. So the middle is right here, right? And what I want to do is I am going to macrame down, and that is probably, let's see, that is about 1.5 inches. So we're going to go about 1.5 inches, even though we're going to have some macrame in between here. We're going to have like this, like this, like that. Okay. And then we'll have about 1.5 inches on the other side. Now, what we're going to do, how are we going to accomplish this? Well, we're going to accomplish this by bringing in the tying station. This is the tying station from Beadalon. And I believe I got this at jessiejamesbeads.com, and it has been a while, so I'm not sure if they still have it or not. But it's a really, really good tool. You don't have to have it. It makes it a little bit easier, especially for getting your hands all underneath the wire. And also too, it just, I don't know, it just kind of helps out a little bit. And what I want to do is I'm actually going to use this, the soft side here, just like so. And I'm going to go ahead and put my washer down. And I am going to go ahead and get this down here. I just want it to be the little wing nut. And get that all nice and tightened down. You need the washer on there, or else you could probably snap that plate. Okay, and I want to get it all nice and tight, and it's not getting damaged because it's underneath this nice cushy little area. Now what I want to do is I want to just bring in some string or something just to hold this in so that I can bring this out. Now what you could do is you could always not, because then you can slide this back and forth. You could always just not cut your wire. You can leave it on the spool, but we can also do it this way here. And I'm just going to go ahead, and I have my little crimp tube on that side, and I'm just going to pull it until it gets nice and tight. All right. Okay. So now we have this, right? Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go about 1.5 inches. So this is what, 1/2 inch here. So we're going to go to about 2, maybe a hair under 2, because then we have about 1.5 inches on either side, and that's what we want. We want to have about 1.5 inches. So now it's how much B-Lon do I need? Well, you be sure to cut enough, because if you don't have enough, it's not easy to, can't really like weave it in. You have to, at least I don't know if you can, but you want to have enough so that you can get through the entire project. So I am going to go about, I'm probably overkill on this, but I'm going to go about, I don't know, maybe 80, 90 inches or so. Then let's give it a trim. All right. So now what I want to do is find the middle. So I'm going to find the middle here. And this type of bracelet was actually a request to do. So I thought, well, you know what I'll do is I will just record it. All right, so what you can do is find your middle, just like so. Some people might start it off a little different, where you can do like a lark's knot, or you can just go ahead and get started and doing the macrame now, just like so, where it's a little difficult because I have a very long strand. Okay, I have a very long strand here. So let's go ahead and get some of this stuff out of the way. And how I learned was doing your P's and your Q's. So I'm holding on to this because this is the center. I don't want it to get too off-centered. And if it does get a little off-centered, that's okay if it's just a little bit. You don't want it to get off-centered a lot, because then you're going to end up with a really long one side and a very short other side. So we're going to make the P, and it's going over. So this P, this is the right side, is going over our center strand. Now I take my left strand, like this, and I'm going to go under and over. Okay, I'm keeping my finger at that halfway. And like I said, this is really super long. And I don't want my beads all underneath there. So I'm going to do this. Bring them all down. And I'm just going to start pulling. And again, this is just the first couple times so that I can be sure that I try to have at least the center. So we have our P. Now we're going to make our Q the same way. We're going to make sure that's all nice and tight. And we're going to do our Q the same way. So we're going to go over that center. We're going to bring the right side. And it's just easier for me to grab the end. And then I'm going to go under the center and out over the top of the other side. And then now I'm going to go ahead and give it that pull. And that's the Q. Okay, then we're just going to keep on continuing. We're going to go over, okay, then this other side, grab your end. So grab your end, you have your P, go under and over the other side, just like so. Okay, make sure that your just make sure that your beads don't start getting up in the way. So there's your P. And now here's our Q. So we go over the center, or your working line, or the anchor line. Okay, then you bring your right side over that. Then you go under and back up through. And this you can use, if you don't have B-Lon core, you could use Irish wax linen. Oh, you know what? I think I did that already. And that's the one thing, is you need to make sure that you remember where your P's and your Q's are. All right, so I'm going to go down to about the two here, and that will give me about 1.5 inches, and I'll just verify. And then we'll start going through the beads, and then we'll finish it off. Okay, so hang tight, and I'll be right back. Okay, so now that I've made it to the end, I'm going to go ahead and I want to, I can pull this up underneath my plate here. I usually don't use this for this bracelet just because, I don't know why, I never have. I forget that I have this. And so I will usually just go ahead and tape it to the surface that I'm working on. And I normally just do this, it's kind of like in my lap, so it's hard for me to, it'd be hard for me to show you how I do this normally. So I usually just put it on, I have a brownie pan that I use that's perfect for this. All right, so let's go ahead and get that. And then let's just pull this back a little bit just to get it a little bit more tight. And now what we're gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and pull up one of these beads, and it might spin, it might do something, but you can also have it to where it goes underneath it and it holds it in place that way too. So we're gonna start off with our P. We always start off with our P and end with our Q. And so I'm going to go ahead, and I have tons of thread here, so or cording, so it's probably going to be a bit much, but and I think I said it was like 100 or so. So I'm probably going to have this be a little bit to where it can spin a little bit, because it is a little like an oval shape. It's not a round that has a thick round surface, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I've done this bracelet, I don't know, maybe a dozen times. It is a favorite of one of my friends, and so I will do this for them often, and every time I do it just a little bit differently. Okay, so then I'm just kind of holding it and then tightening it, and that's pretty good. All right, and then I'm only gonna put maybe 3 in between, like 3. And when I say 3, I don't mean a P, a Q, and a P. I mean a P, Q, P, Q, P, Q. So there's my P, and I'm just holding this down so that the other beads don't get in the way. There's my P. And then again, I'm going all the way down to the end and grabbing that little piece, and it's just easy for me. I'm probably not demonstrating this very well, because I don't know if I've ever demonstrated this yet. Okay, so that's the Q. All right. Okay, so now let's go ahead and do our P. We're gonna do one more set. And even though I'm right-handed, I feel like I'm left prominent, which my mom always said that when I was little, I would try to pick up my utensils with my left hand, and she would always grab and say, no, 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 you're supposed to do it with this one. And I don't know if she was ever exposed to anybody left-handed. And actually, I don't know anybody on my mom's side that are left-handed. My dad's side, yes. All right, so now let's go ahead and do that. And we're gonna go 3 in between again, 3 sets. So we're gonna go P. We're gonna go P, pull that up through, and then I just kind of hold it while I'm pulling through. Okay, and there's that. And it kind of goes on that one a little bit better because it's a little bit thicker of a bead. Or maybe wide, no, that wider, maybe wider. Okay, and then here we're doing our Q. Okay, let's go ahead and pull that. There's our Q. Get that. Okay, then we're gonna do our P. So we're gonna do our P, go under. And then let's do our Q. I probably should have only done two little sets, because it might make it a little bit too, I have to get 1.5 inches on that other side. Okay. All right, so I'm gonna continue going. And again, it's okay if this one's a spinner, that's fine. And I'm just gonna keep on going until I get to the end here. And then once I get to the end here, which I think I'm probably gonna end up a little too, because here we go. I'm gonna want to go to about right here. And I'm probably gonna go back and take these out, and I'll just go very carefully. And I'm probably only gonna do 2. I'll take a couple out because I feel like I'm not going to be where I want as far as having my 1.5 inches on this side as well. Because I have about, I have about 1.5 inches, and for me to get 1.5 inches on this side, I'm already, so I'm probably gonna have to take some of that out, some of this, and that's what I'll do. And I'll try and scrunch it nice and close, because I can pull that a little closer. And I just did. And then I can pull this a little closer. But I'm gonna go back and take out one of those. So I'll just put 2 in between and then we'll go from there. So then this ends up being still just barely a hair under 1.5 inches, maybe 1.25 inches. I could probably get it. I could probably get it to 1.25 inches by squeezing it nice and tight. And that's fine because then, I mean, to me, I think that's fine. So we'll go ahead and we'll do that. And I will come back when I get to the end. So we're back. I did use these little fine point tweezers that I had. These are amazing. And since I was able to get out those stitches on this end really easily, it was very easy. I went ahead and took out a little bit of this end. Let me go ahead and get this all the way off. And made this section, just this section right here, made this one just a little bit shorter. And then this got a little wonky. This one did, this one in, but that's fine. And it's gonna spin around, or what you can do is you can just, what I did was I just grabbed that cord and then just pushed it to the back like that. This side, like I said, is just a little wonky, and that's fine. It'll be fine. I just kind of, whatever, but it's good. I'm fine with it, and this is mine, so I'm good with it. All right, so let's go ahead and put this back on here for the next time. And again, I rarely ever use this, and kind of forgot I had it. I was looking for, oh, and to make this on this side, I just took the strand, the wire from the strand, and just put it on the end. And it was a great way to test the strength of the crimp tubes. And of course, they're perfectly fine. And something else was that I cut way too much thread, which I'm sure those of you that are very proficient in macrame probably knew that I had way too much. So I have enough for more bracelets. So I will use those for more bracelets. Now what I have, like I said, this one's just a little wonky here, and I could always do something with it, as far as I can always just tack glue it down if it really bothers me, but I don't think it's gonna bother me. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and come to the end here and give it a little bit of a trim. I want to keep a little bit of the tail because I am going to use my Zap It. I think it's a little too much there. I'm gonna use my Zap It or Thread Zap, my Thread Zap. And I'm gonna go ahead and melt these ends down. So always have good fresh batteries. And I'm just gonna push my little button down, and the tip will get hot. And then all I'm gonna do is, you can kind of see it there. And then I just melt it and then just tap it in. Let's go ahead and do this other side the same way. Going to just hold, and you can see where it's melted. Okay, and then just kind of squeeze on that. Okay, so we have that. So that's what we have. Now, from my findings box, I pulled one of the lobster clasps, 2 of the small jump rings, but look how thick those jump rings are. They're pretty thick. And then I also pulled a head pin. So let's go ahead and wire wrap this guy up. Okay, I'm gonna need some more tools. Okay, so I'm done with these. Let's go ahead and bring in our chain nose pliers, and I am going to go at the tip. And you know what? I think I want to, actually, I think I want to wire wrap that directly onto the end of my chain. And what I'm going to use is, for my chain, I'm going to see if the lobster clasp will, yep. So what is this? This is the incredible paperclip chain from Jesse James Beads. And they also have it in gunmetal. Look at this color. That is gorgeous. Isn't that beautiful? So in gunmetal and in gold. And I think I saw it online today. Today is Saturday. Today is Saturday, July 22nd. And I believe I saw this online too. And I'll put links to the paperclip chain as well. And then just thought I would give a shout out for, since I was talking about chain, look at this heart chain, and that's in gunmetal. And you can also use the heart in silver. I couldn't find mine when I was looking, but I know I have some. But here's some in gold. And I believe they have it in rose gold too. I think I have some in rose gold. And then here's another chain. This is the simple curb chain, and this is in bright silver. So you could use either one. I decided that I want to go with the paperclip chain, and I just want a little bit of a dangle, and I want about maybe like an inch of the extra hanging off. So let's go ahead and go here right on the end, and we'll take this one off. Okay, so we're going to use that. If you have not used the JJB chains, you're missing out. They're really good. All right, so I'm going to put this, I'm going to attach this directly onto the end of the chain for the dangle. And here what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead, and these aren't very thick. I can tell that they're not like a 20 gauge. So I'm going to go at the very, very tippy tip of my chain nose pliers. And the reason why is because I don't need a long neck. And if this was more like a 20 gauge wire, then I would probably, I would come up on my chain nose pliers just a little bit so that it gave me a little bit more room for those 3 wraps. So I'm just opening that up a hair and going to slip this on, and there we go. Let's go ahead and close it down, and then just get the tippy tip of my chain nose pliers right there on the end. And I can use my fingers or I can use my chain nose pliers, and I'm going to go ahead and use my chain nose pliers because I feel I get like a more controlled, tighter wrap when I do that. And I'm going to come along in the back, give it a little bit of a trim, and go from there. And then now I have basically a blinged out extender. All right, so there we go there. Let's go ahead and take these amazing jump rings. There we go there. I'm just looking for the slit. They're that good that you can hardly see the slit. And I like that they're small because I don't want a bunch of length from jump rings. I would rather have length in the extender because the extender is so cute. Okay, let's go ahead and close this up. And again, I will put links to everything in the description, everything that's still in stock. I believe the chain is still in stock, but again, I could be wrong. But if you do this with gold, then you can grab gold or the gunmetal. Let's go ahead and open that up. Do this. And I'm so excited. Have you guys signed up for the Jesse James Beads summer camp yet? I think I saw that there's only a few kits remaining. They're gonna get mailed out here shortly. And yours truly will be one of the counselors just for the evening around the campfire. And we're gonna have a blast. Tricia and I and Sarah are going to we're gonna do s'mores. I think we're gonna do s'mores. And it's just gonna be so much fun. I cannot wait. And what else? There's so many people that are, Neely is back. Neely, I don't know if he was at summer camp last year. I think he always does summer camp. Yeah, he was summer camp. Maybe it was winter workshop. or no, maybe Beads and Bloom. I can't remember. I just know that he wasn't at the last one, or maybe the one before. And I'm just glad that he's coming back. And we are going to have Meredith Roddy. I think I saw her on the list of camp counselors. I'm so excited, and gonna have some more exciting news for you as the months come. And I will be sure to keep you guys posted on anything extra that I'm involved in so that you can go and check it out. However, though, I do see most of you guys, most of you that comment, I will see you in these lives too. But here we go with our bracelet. Just, I mean, they're gorgeous crystals, and I love this blue, and they just go really well with that beautiful like creamish white B-Lon cord. I love the little dangle at the end. And again, for your smaller wrist, you can be at this first paper clip, or if you have a larger wrist like I do, I'll probably go at the second. But needless to say, this is absolutely gorgeous. I'm gonna get a picture. Of course, I'm gonna stage it to where this little guy doesn't really pop out so obviously. Or so obvious. And so what else? Be sure to give this video a huge thumbs up if you like it. Comment. I love to see what everybody has to say. And subscribe. And until next time, have a good one.